Bvas will dash hope of dishonest politicians, says former Vice President Atiku Abubakar.
I know that Tinubu and the Inec chairman must be jittering because at the moment there is no hiding place for all that they did during this election. I mean, the corruption in this election are beginning to unfold.
The introduction of biometric authentication is a great leap. It was started during the Good Luck era. It started as card reader, that was fingerprint biometric authentication. It has now been upgraded into a bimodal. That means it takes your fingerprints. It also takes your facial recognition. It is a very good thing. It had no problem at all. It worked very, very well. The lack of its proper use in the final tabulation is as a consequence of fraudulent manipulations, as you have seen.
So guys, Amazon, who is the owner of the server where INEC stored the data for this 2023 presidential election, has come out to say that the system was never hacked. We all know that INEC once said that their server was hacked, and at a point they said they had glitches. We don't even know which to believe, but Amazon has come out to confirm that the system was never hacked, that whatever that happened that prevented the upload of results were humanly carried out, meaning there were human factors.
We have been able to get access to the hosters of the servers, who are, in this case, Amazon Web Services. They do provide the same web services for the U.S. Department of Defense. You will understand the Pentagon will not buy services from a company that does not have that capability to actually defeat all those things that they were saying. Nobody hacked into the servers, as Amazon said before, during, and after the elections. It worked very, very well.
So you're telling us that INEC lied about the fact that their system was hacked, or that the fact that they had issues?
Yes.
So
INEC lied 100%.
More damning to the INEC chairman is the fact that Amazon, who is the owner of the server where INEC stored its data, has come out to say that the system was never hacked. When INEC refused to upload results were intentionally carried out by INEC and its officials. There have been speculations that INEC staff received order not to upload results for the presidential election. Like we all know that those for the Senate and the House of Assembly were successfully uploaded, but that of the presidential election, which is the most important, wasn't uploaded. And INEC came out to tell Nigerians that they had a glitch. And at another time, INEC told us that their system was hacked. But you can see that Amazon has come out to say that there wasn't any time that the system was hacked.
It was INEC lied, and INEC did that. They were caught unawares. The things were working very well until they were instructed to block the...
Why would INEC try to disrupt its own duties, knowing that they had, of course, raised the hopes of every Nigerian? They had a job to do. They made promises. What did INEC stand to gain if you, like you said, they lied to Nigerians?
Yes, INEC they were pressurized by politicians to undermine the process, because if you check on the same day, the results for the National Assembly election were politely, progressively uploaded. No problem. Nothing happened to the INEC server. We have gotten that confirmation from those who hosted the server, Amazon Web Services. Nothing happened before, nothing happened during, nothing happened afterwards. If anything happened with the server, we will have known.
So guys, the truth around the presidential election keeps unfolding. And I tell you, INEC and Tinubu must be jittering at the moment. With all this, you can agree with me that Peter Obi won this election. Peter Obi will be declared the president of Nigeria in no distance time. So guys, let me allow you watch this video. Just take your time and watch this video and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.
The introduction of biometric authentication is a great leap. It was started during the Good Luck era. It started as card reader, that was fingerprint biometric authentication. It has now been upgraded into a bimodal. That means it takes your fingerprints. It also takes your facial recognition. I pray in future it will progressively come to include the iris and plus the body mask, which is exactly what we currently have in our digital passport protocols. It is a very good thing. It had no problem at all. It worked very, very well. The lack of its proper use in the final tabulation is as a consequence of fraudulent manipulations. As you have seen, we have been able to get access to the hosters of the servers, who are, in this case, Amazon Web Services. They do provide the same web services for the U.S. Department of Defense. You will understand the Pentagon will not buy services from a company that does not have that capability to actually defeat all those things that they were saying. Nobody hacked into the servers, as Amazon said before, during and after the elections. It worked very, very well.
So you're telling us that INEC lied about the fact that their system was hacked, or that the fact that they had issues?
Yes.
So
INEC lied 100%. It was INEC lied, and INEC did that. They were caught unawares. The things were working very well until they were instructed to block the.
Why would INEC try to disrupt its own duties, knowing that they had, of course, raised the hopes of every Nigerian? They had a job to do. They made promises. What did INEC stand to gain if you, like you said, they lied to Nigerians?
Yes, INEC they were pressurized by politicians to undermine the process, because if you check on the same day, the results for the National Assembly election were politely, progressively uploaded. No problem. Nothing happened to the INEC server. We have gotten that confirmation from those who hosted the server, Amazon Web Services. Nothing happened before, nothing happened during, nothing happened afterwards. If anything happened with the server, we will have known. It was simply a political decision taken by those who saw that the exit polls did not favor what they wanted to have. That was why they were instructed to block the further functioning of the progressive uploading of the presidential election results. That for the National Assembly were properly uploaded. There were no problem, and there is still no problem with all those issues. That's why INEC is having problem. It's not going to be able to get Amazon to admit what Mullah Muhammad said in America. That was a big lie. Nobody hacked into the servers. Nobody was able to hack into anybody's servers. It's very good, and that's why we have today subpoenaed we have subpoenaed the Amazon Web Services, and they are coming to Nigeria to testify that nobody hacked into their server before, during, and after the elections. Whatever happened here were human mistakes that were done deliberately, simply to undermine the process. And one thing I can tell you, in 1993, the result of a presidential election was annulled, and in its place, we had Abacha manufactured. What we had that time was instability because of the annulment of that election. I can assure you that due to the annulment of the election of the original results of a presidential election, the country is going to run into instability. Take that to the bank. You cannot resist it. The last time we had this was in 1993. We ran into instability. and we knew how Abacha governed. Anytime you steal a car
Hold on,
and try
Catch.
to
Just
give
hold
that
on.
vehicle to people, you will have problem if the owners are in town.
We cannot preempt the election tribunal, which has already kick-started. We can't preempt what the outcome will be, so you can't say that, you know, there's going to be instability. But before we go into another one, let's go back to what former Vice President Atiku Abubakar said about these Bvas. He has said, and I quote, "The law governing our elections has truly brought power to the people, and those power-mongering politicians who believe that they have or they can freely subvert the inherent power of democracy now have their hopes dashed." Does it mean that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and everybody who lost in this election, according to the announcement of Inec, fall in the category of the people who have their hopes dashed because of the Bvas?
What he means is very simple, that we have now come into the period where votes will become votes, because this is the first time we are having to vote after being authenticated. The introduction of the biometric authentication is a game changer. That's why you did not see, as it was previously the case, the uploading of phantom numbers previously being the norm. It's no more going to be that way. I believe that the signing into law of the Electoral Act Amendment changed everything. Because why? It forced the authentication of whoever the voter will be before you can allow him to vote. That has become law. Apart from that, you cannot pile up numbers just because you want to have new numbers to know. If those numbers are piled in and they do not rhyme with the numbers of authenticated voters who were previously authenticated to vote, it will not work. So if you have any number that comes in that is more than the accredited number of voters, that's what he's saying, it will not work. And for you to be accredited, you will have to go through authentication through the Bvas machine. What the Bvas machine is a progression of the original card reader. The card reader was just thumbprint biometric capture. The Bvas means bimodal, thumbprint plus facial recognition. So it's a progressive way of that original introduction, which we call the card reader, which only captured the thumbprint. Now, the new biometric system captured the thumbprints and facial recognition. That's why, if those things are now implemented, you will not be able to just pile in numbers, because those captures go into the accreditations, and you're not going to have more numbers suddenly return more than the accredited voters. That's why he's saying that the days of simply wishing on numbers will not anymore hold. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. So let us go to the tribunal. Let everybody prove his case. And as far as I'm concerned, Atiku Abubakar is very right on that very point, that the days of simply writing numbers are gone. Nigeria is on to a very brand new pedestal in regards of honest elections.
Kacha, I'm going to come back to you to talk about lawmakers and how we can improve the electoral process. But let me come back to you, Moshood. For those who have, because I'm on the radio and I'm listening to people and you know, feeling the pulse of the people after the elections, and I got to hear something that's very remarkable. Might not be, you know, the best thing, but there's something that's called post-election traumatic syndrome. I don't know how they coined it. And that's because a lot of people feel let down by the election. So I'm going to ask you a direct question. Did technology fail us during this election, or did INEC itself fail technology?
I don't want to point accusing fingers, but I think technology did not fail us. And I think the introduction of technology, if implemented properly, it will have achieved optimum results. Technology did not fail Nigerians. I think the humans managing technology to a large extent actually failed the technology, and to some extent actually failed the Nigerians, or those that actually feel aggrieved. But again, the deployment of technology has been an improvement on the previous process. Even the figures that came out from the election, you can see they are substantially real voters as compared to previous numbers that we usually have. So I think our technology did not fail Nigerians. To a large extent, technology actually exposed the usual malpractice that we usually see before. I think technology, to a large extent, exposed it. I think the commission actually made a lot of promises, especially around the fact that results from the polling unit will be uploaded real time. Unfortunately, that did not happen. In that case, you will not blame technology. You blame those that refused to or that could not harness the power of that technology to actually promote transparency. The ideal thing is that you upload results from the polling unit. Before you get to the ward level, the ward collation officer must have seen the results you uploaded. And if you announce anything contrary to that, you're going back. Unfortunately, that due diligence did not happen. But technology was there to be harnessed. So it did not fail us. Those that should make use of that technology to promote electoral transparency probably did not do enough.
How do we appeal to the senses of those who feel like their time, their energy, the hyped up mentality that they had before and during that election seemed to be dashed? What do we tell those people? How do we somewhat galvanize them again for another election cycle? Because for most people, more like every other election cycle, it's always the watershed moment. Everybody says, "Well, this is the one that's supposed to make or break us." But it seemed like there was more attention, more energy. People were more interested in this election as opposed to any other election that we've had. What do we tell those people who have said, "Look, I'm not touching that PVC anymore. I'm not going to the polls. It's not worth it"? Well, how do you appeal to their sensibilities?
No, you tell them that the fact that they could even point out that something went wrong is a progress from what happened in previous times where you just see figures and you cannot perform. But now you can actually point out it's transparent for you enough for you to point out where the gap is. So it's an improvement in your knowledge from previous elections, and it means if you want to raise any case or any issue, you know where to point out to. So that enough is some kind of solace for those that their hope were dashed. I totally understand the fact that there were a lot of expectations, a lot of promises on this election, and to some extent, some set of people feel that promises were not fulfilled. But the fact that we now know the responsibility of Bvas, and we know the responsibility of IREF, and we can go on IREF and compare results, I think it's a huge step as compared to previous elections.
Okay.
And subsequently, we can know where to bridge the gap. If an electoral officer refuses to upload results right from polling units, maybe you as a voter, you can put your heads together and refuse to allow him to go until he does the right thing. So the fact that you know the right place to bridge the gap as a citizen, meaning if you're going into another election, you know where to bridge the gap.
Okay.
You know what to ensure that electoral officials do. So I think that alone should give us hope going into subsequent elections.
All right, back to you, Catch. Let's talk about the legislation behind, pushing our electoral processes further, a notch higher, if I might say, especially when we have been pushing the idea of e-voting and diaspora voting, which might be the next step. And I'm not just talking about the accreditation and the scans and all of that. Of course, there will be an inch better or higher when it comes to, accreditation and voting. But the voting process in itself is where the attention is being moved now. Looking at the members who are going to be constituting the new National Assembly, both the upper chamber and the lower chamber, and the guys who are going to be sitting at the helm of affairs, if what the former vice president has said is anything to go by, will these same people be willing to push the electoral process further, knowing that this might, one way or the other, cut off the wings of the so-called corrupt politicians and the, shortcuts that they take to winning?
One thing I can tell you is, looking at a holistic picture, you need to understand that our country is changing. Nigeria is changing. We now have suddenly available on the scene the best educated generation of Nigerian youths. They want to get involved, and you can see what they have done. They are members of the new youth-driven movement, and I believe they're not going to give away. It's a very young country, and they are up to 75%, if not up to 80% of our country's population. They want a Nigeria that works for them. Now, you've seen them do this, and you've seen the old brigade try to annul it and write other things and tell them go to court. It's just like trying to kill a python. You don't kill a python with a single strike. You have to hit and hit and hit and hit again before the python goes down. So we are, as I can tell you, in addition to what the former vice president said, we are onto a totally brand new era. Nigeria must now confront its own old demons, defeat those demons for Nigeria to move forward. I believe that the new generation that are now pushing on all fronts are going to be able to exert the maximum pressure to force changes in our country. I have no doubt Nigeria is changing. I am very, very encouraged with the things that I've seen, with the way young people have come out and suddenly are now interested.
Okay.
Me and you know this started about 2 years ago. They were
Kat, we have to go. We have to go.
They were violently suppressed, and then they are still here, engaged with all of us politically. I don't see the youth in any way slowing down.
All right.
I see the youth scaling up what they are doing, and I believe with such pushes, Nigeria is heading for change.
All right, thank you for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for hosting me.
Great. Now, you have worked as, you've been in the field, you've seen many elections come and go, but none compared to the 2023 general elections, being that the Bvas seem to have been the shiny new baby, on the block, and many expectations, were heightened as a result of the promises that were made by Inec. And keying into what the former vice president has said, have these Bvas really lived up to expectations?
Okay, thank you very much. If you recall, the Bvas was first introduced in the 2021 Anambra governorship election. And if you realize, since the Bvas has been introduced, we hardly receive those fictitious figures we usually get during elections. It means only the real voters are allowed to vote. And from the name Bvas, bimodal voter accreditation system, it does double form of accreditation. It accredits, it scans your PVC to confirm that PVC belongs to INEC. It then authenticates your fingerprint and then authenticates your facials. It means, and the fact that it has been backed by law only means only the Bvas would be used for accreditation. If you cannot go through the Bvas, it means either the PVC does not belong to you or you are not registered voters in that location. So I agree with the fact that the Bvas has come to stay. And so far it has been a game changer. But again, there is still a lot more to be done. In terms of first, citizens have to know how these Bvas work so that they must insist that it should work the way it's supposed to work. And of course, knowing that technology is not necessarily a silver bullet. It's being used by humans. So of course, the humans that would use that Bvas have to be properly trained, and citizens that are at the polling unit, for instance, have to ensure that the Bvas is used the way it's supposed to be used. But looking at the 2023 elections, if you know previous elections, there are some certain states where huge figures usually come out from. But if you look at the 2023 elections, you notice that the figures are actually reduced. It means the Bvas is ensuring that only real voters are allowed to pass through the accreditation process on election day. And with the fact that the law also says that the law has redefined overvoting. The overvoting, according to the law, now says that the total number of vote cast should not be more than the total number of accredited voters. Initially, the total number of vote counts should not be total number of registered voters. Meaning, if you finish counting the total number of vote cast, you have to go back to the Bvas and look at the total number of accredited voters, and it has to tally. And this is where citizens have to actually touchline or look at to ensure that the figures actually tally. So I actually think the Bvas has come to stay. It will reduce overvoting. It will reduce voting by proxy. It will also reduce manipulation in the electoral process. But again, there is still a long way to go as regarding optimizing the Bvas, ensuring that officials are managing the Bvas actually know what they are doing, and actually educate the people to actually know how these Bvas work, to ensure that these Bvas is not being manipulated or misused on election day. So to a large extent, I think I agree with the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar, but again, we have to optimize it and ensure that those managing the Bvas actually know what they are doing, and they actually are not in the hands of politicians to manipulate the process.
Let me push you further. You talked about the fact that the Bvas would show real voters. Might I take you back to what happened during the general elections, whether it be the governorship or the presidential? We saw children. Might I also remind you, the Commissioner of Police in your state did say that these children were allowed to vote because they had PVCs. But how could the Bvas not be able to decipher that these children were not of voting age? So really, is the Bva as infallible as we think it is?
So like I said, the Bvas and then the technology generally is not a silver bullet. But remember that the issue of underage voting doesn't happen on election day. It starts from the registration period, continuous voter registration. So if we do not flag underage registration at that point in time, and we allow that to go through, those underage voters are automatically certified as authentic voters. And you cannot deny them the right to vote. The time to flag underage registration is during registration. And most times what happened at that point in time is that there is usually what we call community collusion or connivance. When you try to register someone and you notice this person is underage, but probably his father or mother or everyone in that community saying, oh, this person is actually 18 years old. You as an Inec official coming from wherever you're coming from, you might be intimidated or to stop that person from getting registered at that point in time. The best thing to do is actually to request for that person's birth certificate. Unfortunately, in most cases, this is not done. So my point is, underage registration, underage voting should be tracked during the continuous voters registration. It is not the responsibility of the Bvas at that point in time to say if you are an underage, the Bvas only confirm that that PVC belongs to you, and it scans your fingerprints and it authenticates your facial. If you pass through that process at that point in time, sadly you have to vote, because at the point of registration, you were not flagged as an underage voter.
All right, let's talk about, let's go back to the Jonathan administration where the issue of card readers were, introduced. A lot of people have said that, biometric authentication will heal the country. But then we keep introducing all kinds of technology and we still see that major challenge. Of corruption during the elections where the numbers don't tally. We had that issue also for the governorship elections and the presidential elections where the numbers that you get at the polling units are not the same as the ones that are uploaded to the IREV. Again, this biometrics that we all rest our hopes and the future on, can we really say that it will work? I mean, because we're looking at the future. 2023 elections are passed. We're preparing for other elections that are coming. I mean, we know that the Kogi elections is also coming. There's the Bayelsa election and several other elections that will come. Can we trust that this will sieve more and more out of the electoral process, the corruption that has bedeviled it over the years?
Yeah, importantly, it's important, like I said, that technology is not a silver bullet. But we must admit that the Bvas is a massive improvement on the smart card reader. because it's being optimized. That's one. But again, the issue around figures not tallying, a lot of issues were raised during elections. There are some people that actually confirmed that they were registered voters, but at some point their name was not on the Bvas, and that was what issues that a civil society organization raised actually during the mock accreditation of the Bvas, where we noticed that there are some people that have been registered since 2011. But for some reason, their name had not been configured into the Bvas. Again, issues were raised, but like I said, it was improvement on the smart card reader. And we have to differentiate between the Bvas and the IREF. That's the INEC result viewing portal, where people confirmed that the figures that were counted at the polling unit are different from what was eventually uploaded. In most cases, those results were not even uploaded in the presence of the voters. So that was what happened, that figures they saw in the polling unit was totally different from what they eventually saw on the IREF. If you remember, INEC came out to say there were glitches with their technologies. They could not upload results on the IREF. In some cases, it took over 2 weeks. Results were still being uploaded on the IREF. And ideally, the best thing to do is that as soon as you count election results in the presence of everyone, you fill all the form EC8A in the presence of everyone, you snap that result and upload to the IREF. In most cases, those results were not uploaded. So anything could have happened after the election, after the polling unit process. And that was what people actually flagged. You can see a lot of cancellation in some results. You can see some results were on the IREF. You can see a Sokoto state result in Lagos, because these things were not properly done. And if you remember when I started, I said the humans, the success of Bvas is subject to the humans that were managing it. Either they were not well trained or they intentionally sabotage the process. So technology itself is not a silver bullet. The humans managing it will go a long way in determining its success.
All right.
So guys, as the election tribunal continues to sit, so many things are unfolding. I mean, so many things are unfolding, and I want to assure you guys that the Labour Party has a lot of evidence to provide, as in to make their case. And it is already obvious that the INEC chairman and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they are not finding it easy this time. And you can see them trying to fight Peter Obi by destabilizing the Labour Party. And Peter Obi winning at the tribunal cannot be dismissed. And I tell you, so many information are being brought to the spotlight to dismiss INEC's claim that they had glitches. There wasn't any glitch. And it is becoming very clear to the Nigerian people. The evidence before the court shows clearly that this election was manipulated. I mean, INEC allowed the results not to be uploaded so that Peter Obi will not win. And we all know what happened in other states, like in Rivers State, even in Benue State and Taraba State, where Peter Obi won. I tell you, these people denied Peter Obi his votes, but you can see that all these things are playing out. And it is sure that the INEC chairman and Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be able to survive the evidence that we have before the court today. The place of technology cannot be displaced in this election. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think.